Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, May 14th, 2023. Hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. I'm hanging in there, and I know some people have had a pretty rough week, and so I do believe we're in the end times, and it's going to get harder as we go through collapse, and things are falling apart, and so we need to have our spiritual houses in order. So anyway, this will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, and we're going to go over climate related items, methane and sea ice and earthquakes. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight, and I'd like to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day. So we're going to start with Climate Reanalyzer, and here we are today on maximum temperatures. You can see the Arctic's heating up here in the Chukchi Sea, Alaska, and the Beaufort Sea. And Canada's really heating up. Look at this Northwest Territories region. I mean, that's in the red zone, and it's heating up even more in southern U.S. and here across Africa, we've got a bunch of whites, and Saudi Arabia, India is covered in whites, and white denotes, well, in the high end here, it denotes 40 degrees C or higher, and or up to like 104 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. When you start seeing the solid white, it's up more than that, like 45 C. So that's really hot. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly. Here's the brown over the Chukchi Sea and Beaufort Sea, and the reds over Canada, and then browns, and lots of blues next to all of that. So it's up into, like, even moving into the pink zone. So 18 to 24 C higher than normal up here in Canada. And the Scandinavian area is in the brown. China has browns. Most of Africa is in the brown. And then we've got blues for a lot of the planet, which is colder than normal. Here's our overview for the world today. Worldwide, we're up 0.56 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.74 C. The Arctic is up 0.37 C. The Antarctic is down 0.75 C. Southern hemisphere is up 0.39 C. And the tropics are up 0.66 C. And precipitation and clouds, and we've got rain coming up next to Norway, and then snow across. And look at this rain coming up over Alaska. It's pretty early for it to be raining up there. And we've got rain in northern Canada, and we've got a line of rain coming across the Hudson Bay, and there's been melting on the Greenland ice sheet, and National Snow and Ice Data Center is now tracking and releasing that data on a daily basis, so we'll look at that too. Here over the US, more rain from Texas up. Here's the next atmospheric river coming off the coast of North America. Here's the flat view. And then here are the jet pieces. This is, I've never seen anything so crazy as what this jet stream. You can't call it a jet stream. These are hairpin curves. Look at this. That's like mountainous hairpin curves there. That's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. And then the one goes all around, starts here in the Pacific, goes all around the globe. And sea ice and snow cover. The extent is melting or going away a tiny bit. It's thinning down to, we can see the dark blue opening up more here in the Bering Sea, where that sea ice is in high melt. Also here in the North Baffin Bay, definite hole there. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly. This is for yesterday, and we can see this hot spot. This is almost turning into one of those red evil eyes in the Atlantic, just off the coast of Spain and Portugal. And here in the Baltic Sea, that's going into the browns and reds now. And here's the flat view, and here's the blob in the North Pacific. This is where it's starting to heat up. We're starting to see the coastline of North America now with browns coming in, and it's still very high next to South America here. Looks like it's gone down a little bit. That was moving into reds, but it's mainly browns now. The little red here on the coastline. And here, look at the Atlantic. It's almost all solid brown. And Indian Ocean is heating up. So there's that. Now we'll go to methane data. We're starting with the NOAA methane data for yesterday the 13th. This is the Met.B satellite in the morning, 1000 millibar level. The mean average was 1842 parts per billion. The high reading was 2121. In the afternoon, the mean was 1842. The high reading was 2077. On the Met.C satellite in the morning, the mean was 1846. The high reading was 2116. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1845, and the high reading was 2063. So here's our weekly chart for 1000 millibar level, and the 13th averaged out to be 1843.75, and that's an increase this week of 2.5. So we'll see the line going up there. And we'll see what happened this week. Here's where we ended last week at 1841.25 with an increase that week of 0.25. The 7th went down 0.5. 8th went down 1.0. 9th went up 1.5. 10th went up 0.75. 11th went up 1.0. The 12th went up 2.25. And then the 13th went down 1.5, and we ended at 1843.75. So an increase of 2.5 here. And now the 487 millibar level, back to the Met-Op-B satellite in the morning on the 13th. The mean was 1912. The high reading was 2401. In the afternoon, the mean was 1912. The high reading was 2340. On the Met-Op-C satellite in the morning, the mean was 1880. The high reading was 2228. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1879, and the high reading was 2292. Here's our weekly chart for the 487 millibar level, and 13th averaged out to be 1895.75, and that's showing a decrease this week of 0.75. So a slight decrease right there. So we've had 2 weeks of decrease, 1 week of no change, so it's just kind of holding, and these are slight decreases there. Okay, here's where we left off last week at 1896.5, and a decrease of 0.25 that week. The 7th went up 0.25, 8th up 0.5, 9th up 0.75, 10th down 1.75, 11th up 2.25, 12th down 1.0, and 13th down 1.75. So it's just hovering. We did have some pretty good increase this week, but then the last 2 days went down. But don't worry, it'll be going up. Just because we're getting a late start doesn't mean that we won't have high methane. And remember, we're in no man's land, and you know, this is the higher than it was this time last year, so we're always going up. Now we'll look at CAMS. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services methane forecast. And our base time and valid time are both for Saturday, May 13th. We're starting on the Arctic area and surface level. So the surface level went up, the 500 HPA or 487 went down, and I think it's common to see one level go up and then the other level go down. I think that's kind of a pattern of what I'm seeing, and I think it's because as the methane rises, as it like comes up from the surface and goes higher there, then as it goes up in the atmosphere before it pulsates out higher readings again, then it'll go up higher in the atmosphere and go down at surface level. That's kind of the pattern I've been seeing. So the data is for Saturday, and forecast period is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So here the Scandinavian area is coming back to life. We don't have a lot of high methane across Russia. A little bit here south of Norilsk. See, it's spotty. And we've got a hot spot here at the southern Alaska that's in the Anchorage area, and you'll see more and more methane coming up from the interior of Alaska as things heat up there. There's a lot of methane up there, a lot of permafrost, and when that thaws, that gives off methane. You can even have the methane blasts, and where there leaves big craters, big holes in the tundra, and we've seen that. Here, this is the Mississippi River going up, and see where they're getting rain right now. Look at that. That's very high in the forecast period. See, there it goes at West Texas and California. Now we'll go to the North Pole view. Here we can see most of the northern hemisphere. And UK is filling up. Germany is coming back to life. Persian Gulf is filling up. Here's India. These are higher readings where it's spilling over the coastline into the Bengal Bay. China. Let's see where it's filling up, and so that's higher methane. See it spilling over like that. And we'll go to the global view. And we can see that the primary background color now in this southern hemisphere is this light blue, and that's 1840 parts per billion. We're just seeing little spots of the navy blue wisp in and out, but it's gone up. It's redistributed and gone up down here. You can see the demarcation right around the equator from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. It's pretty much a sharp line, but it's a little jagged where it's, getting higher further south, like here in the Indian Ocean. But for the most part, the main background color in the northern hemisphere is some shade of green, and in the southern hemisphere is that light blue, the 1840. And so we've got a wide range of greens, like this dark green. That's 1920 parts per billion, up to the green yellow. I call that green yellow. That's 2000 parts per billion. So there's that. Now we'll look at 500 HPA. And here you can see lower readings, the lighter red kind of swirling in, kind of mixing, and the higher readings, the darker reddish brown, kind of breaking up and moving further south. We've got it down here just off the coast of Australia. And then total column. And here's the highest. Here from China down through southern Asia, all the way over to India, and out over the Pacific Ocean down to the Philippines. Okay, now just a couple more things from CAMS that we'll look at. This is sulfur dioxide today. Now we're seeing a higher reading kind of swooping off of India there, and this is at total column. And I'm thinking that's from pollution, and it could have gotten kind of caught up in the jet stream or something. Here it is at 500 HPA, and so it's not very high at that level if you're from India, but it is a higher reading, definitely. And the higher readings are here in Mexico and South America, also across the Arctic there. In ozone, this is the Antarctic today. We can see an aqua patch over this kind of eastern, northeastern side. We've got aqua here in the Weddell Sea at the tippy point of this western peninsula. Also aqua further up off the coast of South America there. Here's the Arctic ozone. You can see that real heavy is dispersing, kind of breaking up. We've got a thinning coming across Canada here, and that's the area where it's warmer air, the 2-meter temperature anomaly. Here's the global view, and all these greens, any shade of green or blue, are lower than average, so thinner, so it lets more radiation through and things. There's that. Now we'll move on to sea ice. Gonna start with the U.S. Navy models. This is Arctic sea ice thickness. We're still seeing a band of green, which is 3 meters thick, just above Greenland and Canada. Very little reds and dark red. The dark red is the thickest, which is up to 5 meters thick. Here's this hole in the North Baffin Bay. You can see the tributaries are melting. Look at this area. See, that's melted all in there. And so the aqua is giving way to darker aqua, and then purple, and then white. Here we can see where the melting is happening. We've got whites around the north part of the Hudson Bay. This fringe ice along this Canadian coastline is melting. From what I can see, the extent is mainly decreasing here in the Bering Sea. It's also decreasing in the Sea of Okhotsk. And it's thinning. You can see the darker aquas coming in, like this is the Laptev Sea. We also have holes along the coastline where the ice drift has pulled it away. So this bright aqua is like 2 to 2.5 meters thick. Here's the 30-day animation. This was updated to today. So the data goes back 3 weeks and the forecast period goes out to next Sunday. So if you look up here in the Laptev Sea, we're seeing dramatic changes coming up this week. See opening up around the coastline, and also moving past the darker aqua and into the navy blue, which is even thinner. So this area is going to open up really fast. So here we are at the end of the forecast period. with this big change mainly up here in the Lateef Sea, and more holes opening up here in this East Siberian Sea, and then thinning all the way across. Here's the Beaufort Sea ice thickness, and see this hole along the Canadian coastline. This is where the ice drift pulled it away. Here's the 30-day animation, and this was updated to today, so the forecast goes out to next Sunday. So it's interesting, you know, once you get used to watching the ice, you see that it's always in motion, even if there's ice pretty much covering everything. It's moving, it's ebbing and flowing. Sometimes you'll see the leads, the big cracks opening up, depending on the ice drift or the melting, frankly. And you can see the ice being pushed back up to the coastline here. That's from the ice drift. And we're starting to see some thinning here in the Chukchi Sea, and also here in the Beaufort Sea a little bit. And the Antarctic and the refreeze is not going very well. This west side of the Western Peninsula is a problem area, and you can see it's just not coming back there. Also out here in the Weddell Sea is another problem area, and it's not very far out. The most farthest out is here in the Ross Sea. And the 30-day animation, and again, this was updated to today, so the forecast goes out to next Sunday. There's that. Okay, this is from National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is Arctic sea ice concentration. And wherever you see the blues, it's melting. Or if you see the black or the dark blue, that's where it's already melted, and there's a hole. Like here in the North Baffin Bay, and then we've got blues where it's melting. In here in the Beaufort Sea, that's melting, and so on. Here's our chart for the melting for Arctic sea ice extent, and this blue line is this year, and the dotted line was 2012, so we're still below 2012. We're kind of running parallel with it right now, and below the median. Here's the Antarctic, and you can see this hole here in the Weddell Sea, and here on the west side. Those are the main areas that are below. And here's the refreeze chart. And this blue line is this year, this greenish gray line is last year, and then this light gray line is the median. So we're still under last year, and last year was record lows, so we're below those record lows and making new record lows now. Here's the Greenland daily melt. Where you see the aqua color, not aqua, I don't know why I said that. It's orange color. That's melting. There's just a little spot here on this southeast edge and one here on the southwest edge, but it's already had melting mainly down on this side and down here all around the tip there. Here are the cumulative melt days so far this year. And you can see the blues where it's already started melting. And it moves into like the darker blues, like 10 melt days so far, which is pretty high. And here's our chart for the extent. So here we are this season. This dotted blue line is the median, and we've had some little spikes going up here at all the way up to about, I'd say, 3% melt. So the median shows it still kind of flatlined. So we're above the median. That's all of those. Now we'll move on to NASA Worldview, and here's the Arctic. And here's the sea ice concentration layer. Let's see the reds here in the Beaufort Sea. That's melting. Here's the hole in the North Baffin Bay. And I see all these colors here in the Hudson Bay. You've got the orangey red, and you've got green, yellow. Once you get to green, you're seeing holes in the ice. And here it's melting on this west side of Greenland. And also here, here in the Beaufort Sea, you can see that's in high melt. Now we'll just zoom in and see what we can see from the satellite view. You know, this is just real convenient to have that covered up all the time. Why is it that, you know, the land doesn't look smeared out, but this area in the Lincoln Sea definitely looks smeared out? Okay, here it was yesterday. So it's thin and breaking apart. Back to today. And here's the exit point. This is the nearest strait. And then here's the opening, and you've got a lot of open water there already. Okay, there's that. Okay, here's the east side of the ice. See, here's Svalbard. And right up here is Franz Josef Land. And right up here is Novaya Zemlya. Here's Franz Josef Land. Here's East Siberian, not East Siberian. What am I thinking? Severnaya Zemlya. You can tell I'm getting tired. Okay, you see this ice lip? This Fogelhoff ice cap is pouring down from this is just pouring down. And I think this is thicker and more like solid because of this ice cap pouring down. And then we've got open water here. Here's Komsomolets and open water around there. Okay, here's open water coming in. Okay, here's the Laptev Sea, all that. So a lot of times it's just come away from this kind of ice shelf that juts out from the land. And even here, see, this is the edge of the ice, like up and down. And so you can get some perspective here if you know what the shadowy things are. And here's open water. Look at that. Here's the Bering Strait. See, that's almost completely unfrozen. Here it was on the 11th. Just pieces of ice. Just ice cubes now. Okay, here's Alaska. Here's Barrow. Here's the Beaufort Sea. Look at all this open water. Pretty shocking to see it like that this early. Let's see. And here it's breaking up in the middle of the Beaufort Sea. Here's Canada, and this Gulf is open. See? And coming on down, it's open. And Ellesmere Island, and then we're back to where we started from. Now, let's come over here. I'm anxious to really get a peek at this Beaufort Sea, see it opening up. And so there's that. So we're just waiting, watching and waiting. And now let's move on to earthquakes. Let me get the earthquakes up that I took pictures of. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sometimes it's just easier to go through it with looking at the pictures. So, a little earlier today, we were under 200 earthquakes worldwide. We were at 199. These big dots are 5s in this West Pacific area. Oops. What am I doing? Let's see. There's Philippines and Indonesia and so on. We had at least one Arctic earthquake, and maybe we can count this one. It's at the southern tip of Greenland. Here, this one is on the red line, almost up to Svalbard. And that's this one, Greenland Sea. And then down here, just southeast of the southern tip of Greenland, was a 4.9 at Reykjanes Ridge. And then this is Baja California. Here's the Gulf of California. This red line is the Imperial Fault Line. That turns into the San Andreas Fault Line up in California. So we've got two down here off the coast of Baja, 4.5 and a 4.3. Here's Lake Almanor. This is a man-made reservoir in Northern California. This has been swarming with earthquakes in the lake primarily this week. There have been quite a few at negative depths. We can see here minus 1.6 kilometer depth, minus 1.5 kilometer depth. So in this picture we have 5, and they're all in the 2s range, but we had 2 5s here. So 3 days this has been going. And we already saw that sulfur dioxide. Alright, now let's look at the map or the website. Now we're at 198 worldwide, so the number's gone down a tiny bit. Okay, let's see. Let's go to 7 days, all magnitudes. This week we had 2,138 earthquakes. Here's one almost at the North Pole of 4.7. That's north of Svalbard. We just saw these 2 coming down the Atlantic Ocean. 2 more in the Atlantic. Here's one in the South Pacific. And down here, we're just gonna hit some highlights. Down here, this is at the Fiji region. And there was a large 7.6 at Hihi-Tonga that came in on the 10th at 9:02 a.m. There's a lot of movement down here. But with that being in the ocean, there was probably minimal damage, if any. See, here along this Mediterranean fault line, this area is highly active. And so on. Now let's go on. Okay, here's Northern California. Here's what I wanted to show. Lake Almanor. So this week there were 72 here. Frankly, I thought there would have been more once you add them all up. So here's the 5.2 that happened on the 2nd. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. And then there was a 5.4 the day before. This was on the 11th. This was 5.8 kilometers deep. It was in the ocean. And the majority of them were in the water. It's not ocean. You can tell I'm tired. I apologize. And then a 5.2 happened. That was on the 12th at Canyon Dam. So we've seen that. What else? Well, we can see wherever there's crowds, there's going to be higher methane. So that's my report for tonight. Need to go ahead and finish this up because I'm getting tired. And we're reading out of the book of Job, and so we're making our way through. Job chapter 31. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? And what inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is not destruction to the wicked, and a strange punishment to the workers of iniquity? Doth not he see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with vanity, or if my foot hath hasted to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine iniquity. If my step hath turned out of the way, and mine heart walked after mine eyes, and if any blot hath cleaved to mine hands, then let me sow, and let another eat. Yea, let my offspring be rooted out. If my heart have been deceived by a woman, or if I have laid wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind unto another, and let others bow down upon her, for this is an heinous crime. Yea, it is an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for it is a fire that consumeth to destruction, and would root out all mine increase. If I did despise the cause of my manservant, or of my maidservant, when they contended with me, what then shall I do when God riseth up? And when he visiteth, what shall I answer him? Did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld the poor from their desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel myself alone, and the fatherless hath not eaten thereof, for from my youth he was brought up with me, as with a father, and I have guided her from my mother's womb. If I have seen any perish for want of clothing, or any poor without covering, if his loins have not blessed me, and if he were not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted up mine hand against the fatherless, when I saw my help in the gate, then let mine arm fall from my shoulder blade, and mine arm be broken from the bone. For destruction from God was a terror to me, and by reason of his highness I could not endure. If I had made gold my hope, or have said to the fine gold, Thou art my confidence, if I rejoiced because my wealth was great, and because mine hand had gotten much, if I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness, and my heart hath been secretly enticed, or my mouth hath kissed my hand, this also were an iniquity, to be punished by the judge. For I should have denied the God that is above. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or lifted up myself when evil found him, neither have I suffered my mouth to sin by wishing a curse to his soul. If the men in my tabernacle said not, or that we had this flesh, we cannot be satisfied. The stranger did not lodge in the street, but I opened my doors to the traveler. If I covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom, did I fear a great multitude, or did the contempt of families terrify me, that I kept silence, and I went not out of the door? Oh, that one would hear me! Behold, my desire is that the Almighty would answer me, and that mine adversary had written a book. Surely I would take it upon my shoulder, and bind it as a crown to me. I would declare unto him the number of my steps. As a prince would I go near unto him. If my land cry against me, or that the furrows likewise thereof complain, if I have eaten the fruits thereof without money, or have caused the owners thereof to lose their life, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and cockle instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. Job chapter 31. So I'm praying for all of you. If you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I recommend it before it's too late. Well, I hope everyone has as good a week as possible. And Lord willing, I'll be back next Sunday with another update. So I love you all and I'm praying for you. And until next time, God bless you. Go in peace and I will talk to you soon. Good night.